The SFHA Innovation and Future Thinking programme has developed 11 separate projects involving more than 60 people from across the RSL sector and out with the sector too. One of those projects has looked at how to provide affordable and reliable internet access for tenants. The SFHA's Innovation Workshop aim was to look at the options for RSLs to provide affordable and reliable internet access for tenants. Explored the potential for the collective Wi-Fi broadband buying power of RSLs. Members of the workshops were from across a number of RSLs in Scotland: urban, rural, large, small, supported, mainstream, etc. Before looking at what Wi-Fi broadband options were available, we asked the question, why is it important for RSLs to provide affordable internet access for their tenants and residents? In terms of what the key benefits are for internet access, what does it bring to RSLs and their tenants? One of the interesting things about digital inclusion is it helps all households within a community. Whether it's older people, people that are in work, out of work, people in education, etc. But one of the key reasons why RSLs would want to invest in internet access for their tenants is so to ensure that if you're providing online services, as many as your tenants as possible are accessing those online services. A big driver for housing associations looking at digital services and providing internet access has been universal credit. Because you have to apply online for universal credit and keep your online journal up to date, it's important that the people who are on universal credit can access the internet easily. And of course, there's other benefits and other public services that you can also access or are required to access online these days. In terms of applying for and keeping a job, most jobs these days you have to apply for online. Equally, you have to come with some digital skills as well, so it's important from that point of view. For children and for people in further education, a lot of online resource materials are clearly online, so help with education is particularly important. Everyone can save money through online transactions. If you're buying goods or services, you tend to be able to get them cheaper if you do it online. In terms of older people, there's always a danger that they can become socially isolated within a community, and in a digital world, that can be exacerbated. So maintaining contact with family and friends is important, and supporting everyone to be able to do that online is another reason why it's important that RSLs consider the benefits of internet access. And further down the line, two significant things that are coming for RSLs is technology-enabled care. That's only going to work if there's internet within the home. Equally, that's true also of Internet of Things, which rely on a permanent broadband connection. And that's something that housing associations will probably look at in the future. For example, maybe monitoring the performance of boilers, identifying earlier failure in components, etc. We think that the internet, and you hear this more often now, that it's been considered the fourth utility. It's as important as electricity, gas, water, etc. So it's almost becoming like a right rather than something that's nice to have.
So a number of different methods are being used to provide internet access across Scotland. Our research has shown, and there's no single tool that's the right one to use. The slide, as you can see, shows what those are. We've got associations who have hardwired cables into every home, directly into the customer's living room, so that they've got access there. We have communal Wi-Fi, where the wiring is taken into a common area, for example a foyer, and from there the router transmits the signal into every home. We're starting to look at TV white space, where the signal gap, where the analogue television used to be, provides now the opportunity to put digital connectivity into homes. up and coming and very innovative and cutting edge is the use of 5G and the cell phone technology that is going to provide, and that's just starting to be explored by a couple of housing associations. Of course, there's the option of doing nothing and just relying on tenants themselves to move on to the internet packages. But as we've seen and will see from Brian's discussions, many tenants can't afford many things, and that would include the use of the internet, because feeding the kids and providing rental and things like that is much more important than getting the internet in their views. We've got community venues, we've got housing offices who provide access for the tenants to come down and do their universal credit or just to get access to the internet. And of course, there's a combination of the above. Housing associations are providing different opportunities for tenants to come in or have access at home or through the offices to be able to use the internet. But whichever is used, there's no doubt that our tenants do need and want and desire access to the internet, and it's up to us as housing providers to be able to provide that in the best way for us and for the others. And we'll hear later on about some case studies of how some people are doing that.
Before we talk about what different housing associations have been doing in terms of delivering internet access, I want to look at some background on internet use in Scotland. So between 2011 and 16, the percentage of adults in Scotland using the internet for personal use increased from 73% to 82%. There's also been a 23% increase in broadband access at home among social housing tenants, from 42% to 65% since 2014, but that's still well below the overall population. And it's also true that the groups most likely to gain disproportionately from the benefits of being online through financial savings, reduced isolation, access to employment, etc., are those most likely to be socially and economically excluded. One of the questions that often comes up about that is, why are people not online? And it's often suggested that cost is the factor. So is cost really the reason why people are not online? So the Scottish Household Survey in 2016, as you can see in the table, showed the reasons why people said that they weren't online, and actually cost is not the main factor. It's predominantly reasons like, I don't like using the internet or computers, I don't need to use the internet or computers. Things like can't afford a computer or internet connection too expensive are not significant, at least at the first stage. That then comes into play further down the line, where affordability can become a problem. So for those digitally excluded, going online can be a two-stage process. First of all, those not online need to be persuaded of the benefits of being online, and local digital champions are important here, people who weren't previously online and are now online and can talk about the benefits of being online. Once each individual has identified the hook that would encourage them to go online on a regular basis, cost and affordability can then come into play. So access to affordable broadband is probably the biggest cost barrier, as most people will be able to obtain some kind of device that enables internet access. Recently, the Scottish Government carried out a survey of housing associations to help identify gaps in knowledge and build a more detailed picture of how social housing providers are enabling digital participation and equality of access to the internet at home. So they asked a whole series of questions of housing associations, some of which are presented here. So they asked, does your organisation have a digital strategy? And you can see from the slide, about 38% said yes. 34% said no, but they plan to have one soon. And 27% said that they had no current plans for a digital strategy, which was quite surprising. We then asked, does your organisation provide or support any digital inclusion projects in your area? And the response to that was much more positive. It seems that most associations recognise that that's important to do within communities, and it was 64% said yes, and 25% said no, with 10% saying they had plans in the pipeline. The next question was, what type of digital online services does your organisation provide to tenants? So there was a range of responses here. Overall, there was about 28% of housing associations and RSLs that said that they provide fully integrated website or app services, and that means fully integrated with their main housing system. So it's live data that tenants can access. Another 21% said that they had an app which wasn't fully integrated with their housing systems. and about 70% provided some kind of website service, but these mainly generate email requests to the person that needs to deal with the task. And about 20% said none of the above and no plans to do this, which is kind of surprising if you're saying to customers that are online, we have no plans to deliver online services to you. And, you know, we're always being told to take into consideration the different needs and preferences of our customers. So some housing associations are saying, that's not for us, we don't plan to do that. The key question in the context of this innovation workshop was, has your organisation installed affordable Wi-Fi broadband in any of your developments and blocks? So 18% had installed them in new build, 18% in existing stock, and another 18% had given way leaves to main providers to install broadband in their stock. 11% said they haven't done that as yet, but they have plans to do that at some stage. And 45%, almost half of RSLs, said they had no plans to provide internet access in tenants' homes. Part of that survey, there was an opportunity to put some comments as well, and it raises the question, should RSLs fund internet access? And some of the comments questioned whether RSL should fund this service when other organisations and others, government, private businesses, etc., would also benefit. Why should it just be down to the RSLs to invest here? But I think that we need to ask ourselves the question, do we need to more clearly explain the link between RSL's strategic and operational objectives and the effects of digital exclusion? For example, all RSLs will recognise the importance of supporting their tenants on universal credit to make online applications and keep online journals up to date. So there's self-interest there for RSLs to invest in internet access for their tenants. And I think most RSLs these days will probably, in their strategic objective somewhere, will have some kind of commitment to tackle social and economic exclusion within their communities. So why not digital exclusion too? We think tackling digital exclusion is important for housing associations because it is a significant modern form of social and economic exclusion. And in fact, digital exclusion can exacerbate all other forms of social economic exclusion in terms of if you're applying for a job, if you're unemployed, it's more difficult to get a job if you don't have access to the internet or you don't have digital skills. So many social landlords have a successful track record of tackling socio-economic exclusion in their communities. Many have local facilities which can help deliver digital inclusion workshops and training. And again, going back to the point of self-interest, digital exclusion prevents RSLs fully optimising the efficiencies to be gained by tenants using their digital services. So it's important for that reason, if any other. So going back to the workshop, the members of the workshop contacted a whole range of housing associations to find out what they're doing in terms of providing internet access for their tenants. For the purposes of this presentation, we've focused on 4 case studies: Thenue Housing Association, Maryhill Housing Association, Blackwood and Alban. So you're going to hear about the case studies for each of them in turn. So first of all, Thenue, looking at Thenue's digital services and their affordable Wi-Fi model. Thenue's had a digital strategy since 2015, and this has successfully led to 1/3 of Thenue's tenants using fully integrated self-service app or web portal, which offer 24/7 access to rent accounts, repairs history, and the ability to report service requests. One thing about self-service is they're very, very popular. 98% of Thenue's self-service users gave the app portal a positive rating. 60% were very positive about it. And self-service for Thenue has led to significant efficiency savings, freeing up resources to spend more time with vulnerable customers. So what Thenue wanted to know was, is it feasible to provide Wi-Fi, but most importantly, low-cost Wi-Fi? So that was the next big digital challenge for Thenue. And we wanted to do that to establish whether we could maximise use of our digital services and tackle social and economic exclusion, because around 40% of Thenue's tenants didn't have access to the internet at home. So Thenue has piloted 2 communal Wi-Fi systems in existing blocks and is in the process of installing communal Wi-Fi at all new build flatted developments. The success of the pilots has been quite stark in some cases. 60% of Wi-Fi users in one pilot block are now using the internet for the first time. So you're removing one of the barriers that people had clearly to accessing the internet by making it easy for them to access it and providing it at a low cost. So this slide shows Thenue's communal Wi-Fi model. Okay, so it involves 4 parties effectively. The first party is the internet service provider. Now that can be anybody. It could be Virgin, BT, TalkTalk, whoever. They're the provider of the broadband to the block. What they do is they sell the broadband service to the company that we employed to install the infrastructure, Social Telecom. So Social Telecom buy that broadband and pay for that broadband to the internet service provider. Social Telecom then installed communal Wi-Fi infrastructure at Thenue's blocks, which involves placing routers in closes and tenants being able to pick up the signal from those routers. What they also do is they provide the ongoing management of the Wi-Fi network. So the Housing Association are not involved at all and don't get calls to say my internet's down. It's Social Telecom that deal with that. What Thenue do obviously we procured the Wi-Fi infrastructure from Social Telecom, and we charge all tenants in the block £1 a week for the Wi-Fi as a new rent factor. The £1 a week was calculated based on paying back that cost over a 10-year period. What we also do is provide digital support to tenants as required to help them get online, help them with devices. What the Thenue tenant does is then accesses that Wi-Fi and it speeds of up to 7 megabyte, which allows them to watch iPlayer, Netflix, etc. They do that after signing relevant forms with us and receiving a password from Thenue. And what they also do is they pay the additional rent charge. And the service is provided to all the tenants in the block. It's not offered to individuals. The whole block gets the service and has to pay for it. So moving on from Thenue to Maryhill Housing Association. Maryhill got funding from the Scottish Government to carry out a pilot broadband installation in 3 of their multi-stories involving 360 tenants. This was about providing connectivity through fibre to the premise provided by a company called Hyperoptic. They intended to carry out digital inclusion work as part of the project, and the idea was to look at the concept of Internet of Things technology, for example, things like fire door sensors. In terms of the project process, it was initially a very slow start. All tenants were written to twice and a door knocking exercise completed, but only 6 from 360 tenants signed up to the free connectivity. There was some delays caused both at Hyperoptic's side and at changes in staffing at Maryhill. But good progress has now been made, and to date 150 active connections exist. The digital inclusion element in Internet of Things has not yet started. In terms of lessons learnt for Maryhill and for other RSLs that are thinking of doing something similar, I think what Maryhill recognised was when you're dealing with the sales team, they're not the same people that deal with the day-to-day operational side of it. So all parts of the organisation need to be aware of what the project delivery is all about. I think it's clear that there was a key lesson learned in that it was promoted with Hyperoptic literature, and understandably I think Maryhill's tenants said, well, we don't know this company, who are they? And so I think in hindsight Maryhill recognised that if it had been promoted with as a service provided by Maryhill Housing Association, the take-up would have been much better initially. They recommend that you don't make it optional, similar to the way Thenue have delivered it. The success in rolling out the connectivity is because they've taken away the need for customers to opt in. The service is there for all. And there needs to be project ownership within both the service provider and the housing association, with key staff who are responsible for resolving any issues that arise.
So our third case study is Blackwood. As many of you know, Blackwood is a provider of housing services and care services. Over the last couple of years, Blackwood has been developing a product called Clever Cogs, an access to the internet for its tenants, but also one that will be able to provide business services to tenants and people who receive care support. Right across the country, so Blackwood has homes in all of the mainland local authorities, and you can imagine having such a dispersed customer base, being able to use the internet for connectivity and support is going to change the business model that the association uses. Blackwood's also appointed a couple of trainers to be able to support all of our tenants as we roll out Clever Cogs right across the country. We're already giving access to every tenant in Edinburgh and now starting to look at Dundee and Glasgow in particular as we roll things out. But it's not just our tenants that we need to train and develop, it's our staff, so that the support is there for every resident that we've got, particularly as we develop our care and our care at home support. And Clever Cogs allows us to replace the alarm system and the service call system that our tenants and residents would want to use, directly connecting to staff mobile phones. So the need to make sure that both our staff and our tenants are up to speed with internet connectivity is going to be a huge benefit as we go forward. But Blackwood's also trying to drive the development of community Wi-Fi, community connectivity, and making sure that as we're trying to be affordable for all of our tenants in the provision of internet access, that sometimes we might have to look at working together. And so in the southwest of Glasgow, 8 different housing associations are now starting to collaborate and looking at how we can use some of the ISP providers to be able to deliver the services for all of our tenants, irrespective of their landlord or the type of property they live in. So our goal is to contract an affordable internet access for each of those tenants. But that won't just be about housing service provision, it'll be about health, it'll be about social care, and it'll be about reducing that social and economic isolation that Brian's talked about earlier. And that's why for us in Blackwood, it's so important that digital exclusion and digital isolation are up there with all of our other forms of social exclusion. And our model that we're working on, we want to be replicable. So why we're sharing it with you all today, that hopefully as we get collaboration, as we get support, as we contract together, then it's something that we can actually roll out. And we know we're talking to the health and social care providers too, that makes it look as though we should be able to engage them much more effectively right across Scotland too, in delivering true service, true joined up service to all of our tenants. Our last case study today is from Alban Housing. Alban have developed something they call Fit Homes, the ability to enable all of our houses in a smart, connected, joined up, internet-enabled way. It's a collaborative project right across the Highlands with NHS and others, and it's about co-designing a solution that actually enables the well-being and supports the improvement in health and opportunities for tenants across their tenant base, but in time across the whole of the Highlands. In Alness, there's 16 pilot projects for tenants of varying age and support needs. And Alban are really enthused about the output and the feedback that's coming so far on that. It's a fibre broadband package that makes it work. And like we've heard from the other 3 case studies, it's that mandatory process that we're trying to make sure fits in. And it's not about giving options anymore, but making it part of the tenancy and the sign up and the package and the rent agreements. But Alban have been doing other work, like you've heard from the other 3 case studies today, about how do we reduce digital exclusion, how do we reduce financial exclusion, and the partnerships with libraries, other social landlords in the Highlands to train, to develop and to support those in social rented homes to be able to use and access the internet, to be signposted, to use things like learnmyway.com, where there's some great material to support that. And the benefits that Brian mentioned right at the very beginning of this presentation are coming to fruition in the Highlands as well through that access and that support. So we brought together 4 conclusions from what you've seen today. First of all, the fact that 1/3 of the housing associations don't yet have a digital strategy and don't have an outline of where they want to develop customer support and business benefits, we want to tease out why, work with them and actually support them. That if we can share more good practice like the 4 case studies that you've seen, then we open up benefits for collaboration, benefits for the tenants that we've got who don't yet use the internet, and benefits not just for Glasgow but for right across the whole of the country, as we've seen in the Highland example. And then finally, we think that we still need to do more to heighten awareness about societal benefits, especially around health and social care, and their world of developing digital strategies to benefit their clients, their patients, their service providers and users. And how might we as housing providers actually get much more involved in that collaborative arena as well? So hopefully Brian and I have given you some food for thought today. We're now welcoming some dialogue and some debate. Use these recommendations to spur some thought and discussion. And good luck with your digital development too. Thank you.